Hello and welcome to the presentation on studying economics at RHS 2021 to 2023. My name is Mr. Cox. I'm Head of Economics here at RHS, and thank you for taking some time out of your day today to listen to me talk to you about studying the A-level economics. I hope you find the talk both informative and useful in making your decisions. Personally, I think it's a really good time to be studying economics as a student because over the past 15 years, economics has gone from being sort of hidden away in the back of the newspapers to being right at the forefront of the news, from being headline news whenever we were talking about the double dip recession, to Brexit negotiations, to the ongoing talk about government debt and all the policies the government have implemented to try and restart our economy after the recent pandemic. You can't really go a day without hearing about some economic story on the news. As a result, it's made it really up-to-date and practical to study it, to try and find out more about the decisions that the government makes, decisions that businesses make, and how they try and influence us as consumers, because there's no greater time for a government or a bank to try and influence what consumers are doing than when consumer confidence is very low. And of course, during the recent pandemic, consumer confidence has been very, very low. And so as a result, by studying economics, it will enable you to have a greater understanding of exactly why the government and why the central bank have done what they have done. However, it's not just about the big picture. It's not just about Brexit and governments and central banks. There's a wide variety of different topics that we cover in economics, from the individual markets, something that we call microeconomics, all the way up to the massive domestic markets, as we call macroeconomics. So as you can see here on the slide, a wide variety of questions that we would look at over the course of the 2 years of the A-level, from things like Brexit, as you can see, from the Bank of England and their interest rate decisions, to the sugar tax on consumers and how it influences consumers and how it's changed business behaviour, whether we should adopt a minimum price on alcohol like they have done in Scotland, and in year 13 we look at the labour market in more detail, tackling questions like why are footballers paid as much as they are. As you saw on the previous slide, the scope of activities that we look at in economics is very, very wide. However, one thing that is true of all the questions that we saw on the previous slide is that we do try and address them with economic theory. Now, economic theory does involve a large amount of graphs, similar to the one that you see on the right-hand side here. As a result, a lot of people have said that economics is very maths focused. Now, we do use a lot of data, we do draw a lot of graphs, but we don't do as many equations as people seem to think we do. If you take economics at degree level, there is a lot more algebra, a lot more equations, but at A level, the main focus is graphical analysis and data analysis. So if you like the look of graphs similar to the one on the slide that you can see, then economics is definitely the subject for you. A question I get asked a lot at this time of year is, what's the difference between business and economics? Apologies if you've already sat through this from the business presentation. Some of you might have watched both, and apologies for going over it for a second time. Feel free to skip the next couple of slides if so. But in terms of the difference between business and economics, as the name business suggests, it's all about looking at the business. So you're looking at how businesses react to external factors. You're looking at different options available to entrepreneurs and business owners. In economics, we're looking at the factors that impact the business and why the government undertakes them, why the central banks undertake them, why consumers change their minds about different things, how different external factors affect consumers, affect businesses, and how we expect them to react to that. So as a result, economics is seen as being a much more bigger picture subject. Business is great if you want to find out more about the inner workings of a business, and if that's what you're interested in, I encourage you to take business studies. If you're more interested in the political side of things or in the policy side of things, then economics is the better subject to choose. To give you a quick example of what I was just trying to explain, if we had a scenario like we've got here, so supermarkets are seeing that their prices are increasing, what in economics we'd see as potentially a sign of inflation. Well, for economics, we would look at why this is happening. We'd look to predict at what might happen from the point of view of government intervention, banking intervention, consumer behavior, business interaction, all that sort of thing. In business, we would look at the different options available to businesses to try and tackle this issue. So in economics, we're looking at different groups, different economic agents. In business, we completely focus on the business. As I said before, if you're interested in how businesses work, business studies. If you're interested in macroeconomic problems, economics is the way to go. So to look a little bit more in detail at the economics course. Theme 1 and Theme 2 you study in Year 12. Theme 1 is all about individual markets. So we talk about the factors that influence supply and demand of individual products, individual markets. So we'll look at things like the market for cigarettes, the market for alcohol, the market for soft drinks. We'll look at substitutes, complements. We'll look at how prices changing in one market can impact upon prices changing in another market. But it's what we call microeconomics. It's looking at one market. Theme 2 is part of macroeconomics. We look at the UK economy. We look at growth, inflation, interest rates, government policy, all those sorts of things focused on the UK, looking a little bit at their recent economic history and as well looking a little bit further back in time as well. Then in Year 13, Theme 3 brings us back into microeconomics. We look in detail at the labour market, but we also look at, in detail at different competitive market structures. Then we finish off the course with Theme 4, where we look at the international element of economics. So we talk about Brexit, we talk about the EU, we talk about the Euro, we talk about NAFTA, and the factors that influence them and how they influence our individual markets. The entire course is taught by myself, but we still teach it Theme 1, Theme 2, Theme 3, Theme 4 to allow for variety in the subject content that we cover. So in terms of the assessment, now with economics it is all exam based. As a result, you sit 3 exams at the end of Year 13. Paper 1 is based on the microeconomic elements, so it's all of Theme 1 and all of Theme 3. The paper as a whole counts for 35% of your overall grade as marked out of 100, split into 3 sections as you can see. The main section is the data response in section B, because you get given a set of data linked to any market, any micro market, and then you get a series of questions that total 50 marks, including a sort of lengthy open-ended essay at the end of section B. Section C, you get a choice of 2 25-mark essays, and then you just write a 25-mark essay in half an hour. The total paper length is 2 hours. The idea is you spend half an hour on section A, an hour on section B, and half an hour on section C. In the same way, paper 2 is the macroeconomic paper. You sit them on different days. You don't have to worry about having to sit them all one after another. But it's another 2-hour paper. Again, 35% of your overall grade. Again, the exact same structure. The data response this time would be more likely to be information on a country or information on a macroeconomic structure. Again, the choice of 2 essays in section C, which allows you the opportunity to incorporate any knowledge that you study over the course of the 2 years in macro in answering that question. Paper 3, the final paper that you sit, is a combination of both micro and macroeconomics. It can draw upon knowledge from any of the 4 themes that you have studied in the 2 years, and indeed you can use any of the knowledge that you have covered in the 2-year course. You get a mix of both macro and microeconomic questions applied to 2 different sets of data. So you might get part A as a macro question, part B as a micro question, part C as a micro question. Each data response question finishes with a large open-ended essay where they ask for you to explain both the macro and microeconomic effects of a particular thing. There are several units that we cover throughout the 2-year course that appear on both the micro and macroeconomic spec. And so we regularly will practice these to give you the opportunity to practice your analysis from both viewpoints. Economics is a very flexible subject. It goes well with a wide variety of different subjects that you can study at A-level. There's no sort of perfect set for you to study when it comes to economics. There's overlaps with a wide variety. If you are planning to study economics at university, then a lot of universities will ask for A-level maths just to cover the content that you will study, the statistical content that you study in the first couple of years of the course. Some of the top universities do recommend A-level further maths, so if you have aspirations to go to sort of LSE or Oxbridge, it's worthwhile checking their entry requirements before you start your course. But it's got crossovers with things like geography, because we look at globalization as we do in geography and in economics. It's got crossovers with politics because we discuss government policy and different viewpoints of different governments. It's got crossovers with psychology because we talk about, they're both being social sciences, and we spend a whole unit on behavioral economics, the idea that irrational behavior makes economics far more interesting. And so there's plenty of crossovers with a wide variety of different A-level subjects. Similarly, in terms of degree choices, there are plenty that you can do as a result of studying economics. Because economics is a social science that involves testing hypotheses against theory and against collected data, it's skills that are transferable to a wide variety of degrees. Interestingly, you don't have to study economics at A-level to do an economics degree, but obviously it helps. Similarly, if you want to study business-related courses, it doesn't matter whether you've studied business at A-level or economics at A-level. They're transferable skills. In terms of the entry requirements, in order for you to access the full scope of the course, obviously there are maths parts of it. We do some equations and work a lot with data and graphs, as I previously mentioned, and also we do a lot of extensive writing. As a result, we request a grade 6 in maths and a grade 6 in English in order for you to cope with the demands of the course. Any prior study of economics or business is not a requirement. Yes, you might have some understanding of some of the terminology that we cover, but it doesn't matter. If you haven't studied either of those before, that is completely fine. We start from scratch anyway. The one important request that is quite popular for economics departments to make, it's good to be interested in the real life side of the subject. Because it's an ever-evolving subject and it's happening in real life at the time that we are studying it, having an ability to keep up to date with economic news is always a useful trait to have in any prospective economist. And finally, I'd just like to leave you with some comments from previous A-level students about the course. That's pretty much it. If you've got any questions or there's anything that the PowerPoint hasn't covered, obviously it is a new subject that you might not have covered before, so if you do have any further questions, my email appears on the final slide. Please do feel free to drop me an email and ask me any questions that you want to know. Other than that, I would like to thank you for taking some time out of your day to hear me talk about A-level economics. I hope that it has been informative, I hope it's been useful, and I look forward to welcoming some of you into the economics department in September. Thank you very much.